Part 65. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 644. The sudden contact between lips made the female professor who kept saying that she lacked morals widen her eyes. Although she did intend to tease this young husband like this, she did not expect that the other party would take the initiative to kiss her. When she thought of her sister still in the kitchen not far away, there was a strange color in her eyes. My heart was pounding, and I just felt an abnormal stimulation. As a university professor and a teacher of ideological and political education, she should be the most ethical and respected model. But since she came into contact with psychology a few years ago and became a self-taught psychology expert, she has come across too many cases of cheating, both psychological and physical. Then she started thinking about a question. Is this kind of immoral thing really so addictive? As time went by, some thoughts that she shouldn't have also appeared in her. For example, stealing other people's boyfriends. But she picked over and over again, but couldn't find one she was satisfied with. She thinks those women's boyfriends are terrible. Either the level of horror is not as good as hers, or it's just too long to look at. What she wants is a perfect experimental subject, not someone who she despises temporarily and ruins herself. No doubt, Shen Jian is the perfect experimental subject. The relationship between him and his sister is obviously unusual. It is most likely that they are already in the ambiguous stage, and they are not far away from breaking the last window. This fits the concept of someone else's boyfriend. In terms of strength, Shen Jian can instantly kill an abyss-level murderer with one strike, and he can remain calm in front of Judge Yin Cao, who is at the top Ghost King level. No one will believe him if he says he is not at the level of a top Ghost King. More importantly, at the level of a top Ghost King, Shen Jian's appearance is the best among all. Among all the ghosts she has seen, no one can compare with Shen Jian in terms of appearance. Plus, Shen Jian helped her twice. It would be a lie to say that she was not touched in her heart. It could be said that she could never find a more perfect person than Shen Jian. In this regard, she was even a little jealous of her sister. After all, it was Shen Jian who launched an offensive against his sister, rather than her sister finding a pretty boy to hide herself by chance. The two have completely different meanings. The former shows that her sister is more charming than her. The latter can only be considered lucky for my sister. To this end, she was a little dissatisfied. With this taboo thought in mind, he went to the medical center where his sister lived and took advantage of the injury to stay there. Start executing her plan. Soon. Until I almost suffocate. The two are separated. Ghost Professor Suro's intellectual cheeks were unusually rosy and she breathed heavily. He looked at Shen Jian with a hint of charm between his brows. It makes people want to execute him on the spot. She is just like an OL girl with glasses who seduces people into committing crimes. Or a well-known professor. The blessings brought by these identities are hardly inferior to those of the widow Suji. Little husband, what do you mean? Ghost Professor Suro said with a rosy face. Although she chose to start the project, Shen Jian's initiative really exceeded her expectations. She mistakenly underestimated Shen Jian's courage. As a result, the initiative was lost in the early stages of the experiment. She didn't expect to give her kiss so soon. According to the original plan, she should start with seduction first, and let Shen Jian's attention slowly shift from her sister to her. Then gradually relax restrictions. She completely made this man fall for her. Be her person. However, Shen Jian's boldness caused her plan to go awry from the beginning. Then, she deliberately said angrily, if I tell my sister about this, you will be kicked out. Hear this. Shen Jian looked as usual. He has seen this skill of raking down and raking away many times. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. He leaned into her ear and said, "If you want to refuse, why did you respond to me enthusiastically just now?" Ghost Professor Suro. Damn it. As expected, the progress was too fast and I was caught. But it doesn't matter. Anyway, the ultimate plan is to steal my sister's man. She just needs to let this man surrender under her skirt, which can also satisfy the taboo thoughts she has always had. See this? The intellectual female professor whispered, "Do you know a class I once taught?" Her delicate hand slid down Shen Jian's chest. "What class?" "This course is that reason and morality are the most vulnerable in the face of desire." "Do you think I am right?" Shen Jian was also not to be outdone. In response to her bold demeanor, "I haven't studied this, but you are an ideological and political teacher, so what you say should be right, just like, now." Shen Jian never pretended to be a gentleman when it came to this free professor. On the sofa, the two of them were inseparable. Until the beautiful woman walked out of the kitchen carrying the dishes. "You two, why are you sitting so far away?" Suji looked at the two people sitting on opposite sides of each other strangely, looking a little nervous. "Also, Suro, this is not your home. There are other men here. Can you put your clothes on? You are still a professor. Don't teach others bad things." Hearing his sister's voice, there was a faint blush on Suro's face. She looked down at the white shirt with 3 buttons unbuttoned, and hurriedly buttoned it up. He glanced at Shen Jian secretly from the corner of his eye. An inexplicable strangeness came to her. Shen Jian was relaxed. No matter how courageous Suro was, she would not dare to touch his clothes in this situation. "Aunt Ji, let me help you carry it." Shen Jian took a few glances. Immediately went up to help. Although he didn't know the purpose of the protagonist's aunt, he could clearly feel that the reason why Suro did this was related to Suji, her sister. The ideological and moral standards on the favorability panel are extremely low. It probably refers to knowing that my sister is having an affair with someone, but still choosing to stick to her and compete with her for a man. So, if he wanted this intellectual female professor to continue giving him free money, all he had to do was continue to have an affair with Suji. When he thinks that he can be with the protagonist's mother and the protagonist's aunt at the same time. Shen Jian's heart skipped a beat. The strange color in his eyes deepened. The other side. Temple of Heaven. Wang Lan, who newly joined the intelligence department, looked at the latest information in his hand and chose to report it to the palace master. She did not choose to report it at all levels, but bypassed everyone and directly contacted the founder of the Shangtian Temple, Lin Yan, the protagonist of the copy of the movie here. Soon. The top floor of a building. A golden ghost realm spreads across the sky. Next moment, the protagonist Lin Yan appears here. He looked at Wang Lan in front of him and said in a very unkind tone, "You are new here. You should know the seriousness of reporting beyond the level. If the value of the information is not worth the punishment, you know the consequences." "Yes," Wang Lan said, neither humble nor arrogantly, "I have received the latest information, sir. I think I have completed the mission you issued about the behind-the-scenes instructions behind the supernatural game app." "That's all." Lin Yan's face turned cold. There was a sinister look on that face that was not handsome but very attractive. "Do you think I haven't paid attention to the intelligence? If that were the case, you would have been carried out lying down today." "Sir, the supernatural game app has been dismantled. Starting today, this game will completely disappear." Wang Lan still said calmly. "What?" Lin Yan was startled. He originally wanted to let the Celestial Temple collect information and then dismantle the source behind it. Unexpectedly, the mission just issued a few days ago was told today that the source behind the supernatural game had been disintegrated. This is not a joke. Besides him, who else in Wutong City has such ability? Could it be Yin Cao? But isn't this supernatural game app from Yinka? At this moment, the protagonist is confused. He also learned from the parchment prediction last night that the mastermind behind the supernatural game was the YinCAO organization. Unexpectedly, he was stillborn before he started taking action. It felt like God had played a short-term joke on him. What do you know? Lin Yan said suspiciously. A newcomer who has just joined the intelligence department of the Temple of Heaven, and has the lowest level of terror, the red code level. How can a person of this level know about this matter before he, the master of the temple? Sir, I have an informant. She is a participant in the supernatural game. She told me today that the supernatural game has been shut down and the app software has disappeared. She also told me that this matter is related to the latest rumor from Scarlet University. Something to do with ogres. Wang Lan prepared the draft and explained. This she, of course, refers to the gray female ghost. But the source of her information was from Qi Shan. This is unclear. Telling her clearly would only harm her teammates, so she chose to hide it. Ogre. Yes, according to the information from Scarlet University last night, I have reason to suspect that the ogre, in the process of foraging for food, accidentally solved the source ghost of the supernatural game app hidden in Scarlet University, and also obtained source code. Hear the words. The protagonist is lost in thought. His face became more solemn. This most bizarre ogre is actually so terrifying. As the number one enemy of YinCAO and the master of the Temple of Heaven, he knew clearly that the one who could be entrusted with such an important task must be a top ghost king at the judge level. The top ghost king of this level actually died in the hands of the ogre. This is amazing. He speculated that in terms of terror level, the ogres were no worse than him. Coupled with the shameless skill of restarting the ghost realm, maybe, he is no match for the ogre. Think of this. Lin Yan's cynical face showed a huge sense of crisis. He had always thought that except for the palace master of the YinCAO organization, there was nothing he could fear in Wutong City. Unexpectedly, not long after that, a strange ogre that he had never heard of appeared. Its restaurant location is also located at Scarlet University. His fiancée is over there. Such a potential threat is too deadly. He must be eradicated as soon as possible. The ghost realm can't be restrained when it restarts, so it can only be killed in one go through strength that far exceeds that of the top ghost king. This, at least ghost level, is required. Think of this. Lin Yan knew that it might be time for him to go out and improve himself. Thinking, he came to his senses. Very good. This information is very important. Your choice is correct. What do you need? Wang Lan was delighted. Sir, I need permission to read all the information on the Temple of Heaven. I want to investigate the YinCAO organization. This investigation was naturally not prepared for her. But for Shen Jian. Ever since she learned that Shen Jian had completed plot tasks by himself and created a strange ogre, she knew that Shen Jian had the ability to clear the dungeon by himself. Under this situation, the only way she could participate in the mission, become familiar with Shen Jian, and maintain a relationship was to prepare various materials and intelligence. And this is inseparable from the intelligence gathering capabilities of the Temple of Heaven. Moment. Wang Lan left the top floor. His face lit up with joy. Using the first-hand information between players, she successfully gained the attention of the protagonist and gained the authority to use the intelligence gathering capabilities of the Temple of Heaven. In this case, she is not just a salty fish who can only call 666. The first thing she needs to do is to quickly go through all the information about the battle between the Temple of Heaven and Yinka. She needs this because she felt that Shen Jian would not stick to the rules, let alone wait for the protagonist to advance to the level of Ghost and God before attacking YinCAO. By then, she is undoubtedly the right-hand man who can provide information. At the same time, The protagonist Lin Yan watched Wang Lan leave and began to take action. There are not many abyss-level ghosts in Baikan district, and he has basically packed them all up. If you want to improve yourself, you can only go to other districts. Some of the East City area is undoubtedly the best choice. Think of this. He remembered another piece of information. Since the founding of the Heavenly Temple, he has searched for the whereabouts of his biological parents. Found it not long ago. The location is a small clinic in XC district. It's called Su's Medical Center. According to the intelligence, there is a female ghost doctor known as the Holy Hand that heals the heart there, who is his biological mother. At the same time, the most beautiful professor at Scarlet University is probably his aunt. And he is now the master of the Heavenly Temple, and he is a top ghost king himself. If he goes back, it can be regarded as a glorious homecoming. Perhaps it's time for him to find a chance to get to know his mother. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigua. Chapter 645. Time flies. Su's Medical Clinic. Because of the addition of Ghost Professor Suro, Shen Jian's life began to become tense and exciting. Create an ambiguous atmosphere with the protagonist's mother in the small clinic in the morning. In the evening, she faced the protagonist's aunt's teasing and enthusiastically responded to her special habit of stealing men. Shen Jian discovered. The more ambiguous the atmosphere between him and Suji became, the more intense Suro's offensive became. From cautiously stealing kisses, to interacting intimately with Shen Jian across a wall from her sister. Everything about him was the last territory that was not lost. This day, Shen Jian returned to the bedroom. She wiped the red mark on her neck with her palm, erasing the mark of Suro's deliberate declaration of sovereignty, with some emotion in her eyes. He almost thought that this intellectual female professor was a fairy. But through these few days of contact, he discovered the fact that Suro was just a single mother. Most of the time is spent studying. Even after becoming a professor, he still stayed true to his original intention. On the basis of ideological and political studies, he also studied psychology by himself and became an expert in this field. Once such a person is aroused, no one can dissuade him. This special hobby is also a kind of evil thought that the other party has hidden in his heart over time after becoming a psychology expert. Really? Psychology experts are either physically abnormal or mentally abnormal. Think of this. Shen Jian summarized what he gained during this period. Ghost Dr. Suji's favorability has reached 83 points, officially entering the stage of intimacy. If it weren't for Suro's arrival, he might have been able to eat this beautiful homely woman with holy hands and healing heart. Press the protagonist's mother down. The favorability of Ghost Professor Suro also has a tendency to catch up from behind and has reached 75 points. Falling faster than her sister. There are already signs of being intoxicated with this desire. Just like her research topic, reason and morality are nothing compared to desire. The so-called cold and arrogant face, the iceberg beauty professor, is just her usual disguise. In fact, this is a psychological abnormality in a certain sense. The moral concepts are different from those of normal ghosts. She is playful, likes to play, has a bold temperament, is unpretentious, and most importantly, likes to provoke her sister. Besides, there is also a clue to the most important thing. That is Judge Yinko. After a few days, the effect of the words of ghosts and gods has been greatly weakened. The bald dean has obviously discovered something is wrong and is wandering around the East City. But just for today. The other party stopped at a certain location. Displayed according to the map. The area nearby is not a hotel or inn, but a remote villa area. Shen Jian knew that the Yin Cao headquarters he was looking for might be here. Thinking. Shen Jian disappeared on the spot. The bald dean has stayed in this villa area for so long. Even if it is not the Yinko headquarters, he still has important connections. In Shen Jian's view, even if there is no specific location, as long as there are coordinates, he can follow the clues and find it. It's time for this underworld to have a new owner. Not long after Shen Jian disappeared, a sudden distress message appeared in the chat interface. Lian Cheng, save me. Lian Cheng, save me. Lian Cheng, who can help me? A series of text messages were sent to the chat interface separately. He looked very anxious. Some of the news was scattered, as if he was being hunted and had hurriedly sent out some messages asking for help. Mr. Chi at Lian Cheng, have you encountered a ghost? Aren't you in the art department of Scarlet University? When you meet a ghost next to the protagonist, you let the protagonist act cool. Lian Cheng, don't be sarcastic. If I were next to the protagonist, do you think I would ask for help? The protagonist hasn't been in school at all these days. She's on leave. Even the school beauty doesn't know where her boyfriend has gone. Sister Lan, well, I do know where the protagonist went, but can we still encounter ghosts at Scarlet University? Could it be that there is another strange story? Lian Cheng, none. Remember what I said? I relied on the initial favorability bonus to become a passerby NPC next to the protagonist's fiancé's best friend's friend a few days ago. The protagonist's fiancé's best friend's home something big happened and I went along and got into big trouble. Lian Cheng, now not only am I in danger, but also the protagonist's fiancé is in trouble. The number one boy next to the protagonist is already dead. This bought us a certain amount of time, but we can't escape. Sister Lan. Sister Lan, I have recently upgraded my intelligence and learned a lot of the secrets of the Celestial Temple. The number one brother you mentioned was actually sent by the protagonist to protect his girlfriend. He has the strength of an abyss-level ghost king. He is dead. Lian Cheng, that's right, he left behind a broken queen and was swallowed by the blood corpse, leaving no trace behind. Is he an abyss-level ghost king? Oh my god, that's it? At this time, all the players looked at each other. From these conversations, we can see the despair and powerlessness of the player with the ID Lian Cheng. Although this player does not have much presence in this 5-star movie copy, no one can ignore his presence. Because he is the player with the highest level in the game besides Shen Jian and Wang Lan. Not only does he have a game level of 45, but he also controls 2 fierce ghost puzzles. His strength is at the King II level, and he is considered a leader. He can temporarily compete with the half-step red. Among all players, he is already at the top level. But faced with a crisis that could kill the abyss-level Ghost King, he was still too weak. Once he was targeted, he didn't even have a chance to escape. And this level of threat has exceeded the limit of what their players can help. Even if they wanted to help, they couldn't do anything. I am afraid. Only Shen Jian, who completed the plot mission alone, had a chance to rescue him. Of course, just by chance. See this. Qi Shan and Wang Lan didn't know what to say. Unlike other players who don't know the truth, they know how capable Shen Jian is and have exchanged information with each other. They know that Shen Jian can at least rival the top Ghost King. If Shen Jian takes action, saving the opponent should not be a problem. After all, they were just a group of people who wanted to hold each other's backs and couldn't make the decision for Shen Jian. Again, if Shen Jian wanted to save someone, he would naturally do it after seeing the content in the chat interface. If he didn't want to, it would be useless for them to say it. After all, they didn't have that much face. Think about it. Sister Lan, where are you? I may be able to use the authority of the Heavenly Temple to help you find a way out, or ask you to seek asylum from the members of the Heavenly Temple. A long time. There was a reply in the chat interface. Lian Cheng, I am in a suburban villa in the East City. If you go to the left, you will find the place where I disappeared in the third row of villas. There is something wrong with this place. There are too many ghosts, and the level of terror is almost endless. the blood corpse that can kill the Abyss-level Ghost King. I just saw 3 more. Sister Lan, East Urban area. According to the clues I have, the protagonist seems to be over there. Mr. Chi, damn, I get it, it's another plot where the protagonist is stuck and rescues someone, and the protagonist's fiancée is also there, which is a proper drama to enhance the relationship. Lian Chen, in other words, I just experienced the path of a cannon fodder. If I hadn't had the moral integrity to run with the school bell, my ending would have been to stay behind like that number 1 kid until we were all dead, and then the protagonist would appear, save the school bell, and make their relationship warm up, and then the others would have died in vain? Mr. Chi. Sister Lan. Judging from the current situation, this seems to be the case. Following the protagonist, if your fate is not strong enough, it is indeed easy to become cannon fodder. But, according to Lian Ken's words, something is indeed wrong with this place. The best friend of the protagonist's fiancée, no matter how rich she is, no matter how nice the place she lives in, having a Ghost King level ghost is already the limit. There may be Abyss level Ghost Kings, but they will never appear in groups. On the contrary, such a lineup seems to be organized and disciplined. And in the entire Wutong city, there are people with this kind of strength. Wang Yian's face changed slightly. Yinko. Is this place another base for the Yin Cao organization? Is the reason why the protagonist went to the East City area because he discovered Yin Cao's stronghold? But it seems that Tianshan Temple has not received this information. Think about it. Wang Lan decided to pass the information to Shen Jian. Because from her understanding of Shen Jian and what she learned from Kishan, she felt that Shen Jian was very interested in the underworld organization. Sister Lan, boss, we have discovered a new Yin Cao base. There may be clues to the Yin Cao headquarters here. King Yama, I am right here. This is the headquarters of Yin Cao. Wang Lan. Seeing this line of text, her pupils widened. The protagonist is over there, Shen Jian is over there, and the Yin Cao headquarters is over there. Could it be possible? Is this the final stage of this movie copy? Ken. They haven't arrived yet. Why don't you call them when you have a party? That's too much. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 646. East Urban Area. A farewell garden. In a medium-sized bungalow. The player with the ID Lian Cheng is hiding in a cellar. His name is Zhou Fan, and like Wang Lan, he was an unlucky guy who was sent to the entertainment city at the same time and was forced to participate in a copy of the movie. Jigsaw controls 2 mediocre ghosts. Although his strength is not very strong, he is still a ghost controller at least. He is still able to protect himself when encountering ordinary ghosts. But today, not to mention self-preservation, whether one can die without pain is another question. At this time, he hid in the corner of the cellar, not daring to breathe. Hiding here with him are the school beauty heroine from the copy of the movie here and 2 best friends. See this. His intestines were about to turn green. The reason why he followed the school beauty was that he felt it was safest to stay with the school beauty, but he obviously forgot that although the school beauty was safe, the passerby NPCs they followed were not necessarily safe. According to the normal plot development, he will most likely sacrifice to heaven. He will hold on until the protagonist gets stuck in rescuing his fiancée, completely completes his mission, and then witnesses the relationship between the male and female protagonists warming up without resting in peace. He would never accept this kind of development. Even if he is cannon fodder, he should be the one who survives until the finale. Miss Chu, you can contact Brother Lin Yan. In this situation, if we hesitate for a while, we will end up like the previous few people. Zhou Fan lowered his voice and persuaded. After following the protagonist for so long, he has already figured out the relationship between the protagonist and this school beauty. The marriage contract between the two was made by their elders. In order to repay the life-saving grace of the protagonist's master, the school belle's parents chose to make the marriage contract between them since they were young. The protagonist went down the mountain this time, nominally to fulfill the agreement. However, the school beauty was unwilling. After retreating, the protagonist became a bodyguard around the school beauty, and obtained an admission quota to the Scarlet University for personal protection. As a novel lover, he has naturally seen similar plots. Understand that unless they all die, none of the school beauties will think of asking the protagonist for help. And his strength is the weakest. Once he is found by the blood corpse again, he will definitely die. So, he couldn't care less. Said directly and matter-of-factly. He did not expose the identity and strength of the protagonist, because in this case, even if he could survive, he would not be able to escape the judgment of the Temple of Heaven, but he could remind the school belle ghost and make her realize that the only one who can save them at this moment is the protagonist. As expected. Hearing Zhou Fan's words, the school beauty ghost also immediately thought of something. He took out a ghost jade pendant from his body. Crush it? See this. Zhou Fan's mouth twitched slightly. As expected, he said that the school beauty had other ways to contact the protagonist, otherwise any communication would fail once the ghost realm was launched. With the protagonist's ability, how could he not leave some special connections? If he hadn't reminded her, the school beauty might not have thought of it until the last moment. He resisted the thought of complaining. Turned to study their current situation. There is no doubt that they have entered the ghost realm. There is no way to escape by ordinary means. Among all the people present, the campus beauty ghost with the highest level of terror is the top red coat, two best friends are at the red coat level, and then there is him, a ghost controller who is comparable to a half-step red coat. Such a lineup can't even deal with a ghost king. Not to mention the ghost realm spread out by an abyss-level ghost king. This is your home, don't you have anything to say? Immediately. Zhou Fan looked at a porcelain-faced female ghost who was so frightened that her face turned pale. His identity was introduced by this female ghost's friend, and his friend died 10 minutes ago. I don't know why this happened. I received a call from my dad saying that something happened at home and asked me to come back. That's why I chose to come back. Who would have known that my house had been covered in a ghost realm, and as soon as I entered, I was discovered by a bloody corpse that appeared inexplicably. The porcelain-faced ghost hugged his legs and buried his head in them, trying to escape reality. See this. Zhou Fan didn't know what to say. He asked about the school beauty ghost again. Miss Chu, this jade pendant on your body, are there any other items left by Brother Lin? We are in a ghost domain and will be discovered at any time. It will take time to wait for rescue. Take advantage of this time. We may be able to break through the ghost realm and escape first. He said with an expectant look on his face. However, the school belle ghost shook his head, and a trace of despair flashed in his eyes. No, he is only a ghost king level. Whether he can deal with an abyss level ghost is a question, let alone just rely on a supernatural object to tear him apart. This is simply impossible in a ghost realm of this magnitude. In her eyes, Lin Yan is just a ghost king. It can protect her, but it can't solve the problem here. That's it? Hearing this answer, Zhou Fan's heart became cold. Does this mean he has to die? If the school beauty ghost can't delay being found and buy more time for the protagonist, they will be caught by the blood corpse before the protagonist arrives? He just couldn't figure it out. Why were there 4 or 5 abyss-level blood corpses in an ordinary residential area? Think this is where great white sharks are raised? At this time, a line of chat interface appeared in front of him. Sister Lan, you are lucky. The place you are in is probably the headquarters of the Yin Cao organization. Hold on as soon as possible. Not only is the protagonist there, but the big boss, King Yama, is also there. You just need to hold on until any one of them arrives, can all be rescued. Lian Cheng, can't you hold on? Sister Lan, then after returning to the real world, I will leave some money to your parents, enough for them to live in their old age. This is the only thing I can do. See this. Zhou Fan's eyes turned gray. His fists were also clenched unconsciously. He could almost predict his ending. This place turned out to be the Yin Cao headquarters. No wonder he always found it strange that there were so many abyss-level blood corpses here. But if it's Yinko's base camp, it wouldn't be surprising. On the contrary, it is extremely normal. Hey hey hey, I caught you, little mice. A plaintive and eerie voice sounded in Zhou Fan's ears. Next moment, Zhou Fan froze. The neck mechanical system turns around. In the dark, two red light spots emitted from the glass bottle. Zhou Fan discovered that the red dots came from the wine bottle in the wine cellar, and after looking carefully, he felt his scalp numb. Where were the red dots? They were clearly a pair of red ghost eyes. Immediately afterwards, a bloody hand without outer skin stretched out from the wine bottle, and then a bloody ghost face appeared with a thick and stern expression on his face. A playful expression of catching prey. Boom. At the same time, the cellar door was opened. Three equally bloody corpses with no skin and exposed flesh also walked in, staring directly at the four people present. The sinister smile is enough to make anyone die. If you are timid, you may even have a heart attack. This moment, the air seems to be frozen. Everyone's face was ashen, and under the threat of the four abyss-level blood corpses, they felt their breathing was suffocated. A kind of breathless palpitations. Zhou Fan's eyes also widened, his whole body was shaking, and he seemed to be frightened. This script is wrong. Under the current situation, unless the protagonist uses flying, it is impossible to get here. And isn't this a drama about a hero saving a beauty and warming up his relationship? Plot? No. If this is the case, not only will his identity as a human being be discovered, but he will also have no value at all and be a discardable type. Think of this. He wanted to cry but had no tears. Almost scared to death. Someone, help me. A trembling cry for help resounded throughout the sky. At the same time, the entrance of the villa area. Shen Jian appears. His eyes swept away. Rows of villas and small bungalows are scattered here and there. It will undoubtedly take some time to find the real entrance to the Yin Cao headquarters from these places. But he had a better idea. That is to force the other party out. Thinking. A trembling cry for help sounded in Shen Jian's ears. Coming from the third row of mansions on the left. See this. Shen Jian grinned. This protagonist is not very efficient. In this case, let's start with the destruction of this place. Very nice. He wanted to experiment. The Lord of the 7th Hall of the 10 Halls of Yama, King Taishan, what level of clerical ability can he achieve? The next second, Shen Jian stepped out. 100 meters per step. Then, stretch out your fingers. The surrounding buildings decomposed quickly like grains of sand, forming a giant hand of rock rising into the sky. He took a photo of the foreign-style building fiercely. Let go of that hostage and let me do it. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 647. The Lord of the 7th Palace of the 10 Palaces of Hell, King Taishan, is the 8th Yama position he obtained after unlocking the animal path, one of the 6 paths of reincarnation. His clerical ability, Words of Ghosts and Gods, is very effective in practical applications, helping him accomplish many things easily. As for its derived ability, the evidence of Mount Tai, Shen Jian only knew that it was a talent similar to the mountain god's magical power to move mountains, but he had never used it in actual combat, and he could only have a partial understanding of its effects. At the moment, this villa area with buildings everywhere is undoubtedly the best expression of King Taishan's talent. Following Shen Jian's thought, fingers extended. The rows of bungalows were suddenly decomposed, reorganized, and shaped like grains of sand, and then formed a giant hand holding up the sky, which was suddenly photographed like the sky tilting down. Who is calling for help? No need to thank me, I'm just an ordinary and kind-hearted person passing by. Shen Jian grinned. He has made up his mind to turn this place upside down. He still doesn't believe that this underworld organization is just a bunch of turtles. As long as one comes out, he can follow the clues and dig them all out. The other side. Zhou Fan shouted in horror. He is only 30 years old, and even if the evil ghost revives, he can still rely on various supernatural things exchanged for thriller coins to extend his life to 3 to 5 years. It can be said that he is at the peak of his life. If he died like this, wouldn't all the sins he suffered in the past have been in vain? He was unwilling to give in. But at this time, who else can save him? Just when he was despairing, he suddenly heard an excited sound coming from outside. Along with a mirror-like click sound, the ghost realm in front of him immediately collapsed, revealing the original appearance of the foreign-style building. And the pair of big hands that stood above the roof of the building and were suddenly photographed. Zhou Fan. He was stunned. Damn it! I stepped on the horse and howled to death without expecting anyone to save me. But now, someone actually responded to him. Saving people when stuck is indeed a magical skill for warming up emotions. At this moment of despair and death, when someone saves you from fire and water, the gratitude, excitement brought by it cannot be described in words. If he were a woman, he would also have a good impression of the rescuer. The protagonist is indeed a protagonist, mastering this magical skill to the fullest. Zhou Fan looked happy. Okay brother, we are here. He shouted. It has been determined that the person outside is the protagonist Lin Yan. Besides the protagonist, who else can suddenly destroy the ghost realm created by the abyss-level blood zombies? Coupled with the fact that the jade pendant crushed by the Colonel's flower ghost, the person who took action was naturally recognized as the protagonist immediately. Hear sounds. The 4 bloody corpses were also stunned. The next moment. Boom. There was an earth-shaking loud noise and exploded. The whole foreign-style building first shook violently, and then fell apart. Amidst the loud bang, a tall and expensive Western-style building that symbolized status collapsed. The figures of Zhou Fan and his party and 4 blood corpses were revealed between King Tian's giant fingers. Blood corpse? They were also confused. Looking at the destroyed villa with dull eyes, his eyes seemed to say, "I'll go to your uncle. Is this how you save people? Just smash the house to pieces? Aren't you worried about hurting the hostages and killing the caller and the perpetrator together? Grass. When it comes to rescuing hostages, you are several versions ahead of us. Maybe he went to study with a fighting nation with strong folk customs. Besides, if you smash the 3-story house in front of you with one palm and demolish the building if you disagree, are you still a human being? God is so ordinary. If you call this ordinary, then who are we? Crooked melons and cracked dates?" At this time, the 4 bloody corpses were completely shocked. With the blessing of the ghost realm, they could also collapse a 3-story bungalow, but they couldn't do it like Shen Jian, who could just crush it with a big hand. This is shocking. The other side. A huge movement was detected. Many villa owners came out to check. They are all gatekeepers guarding the entrance of Yinko headquarters. They are responsible for killing the evil ghosts who accidentally enter and make this place a desert. Shen Jian's entry naturally attracted their attention. Just when they were expecting Shen Jian to enter their jurisdiction, they saw that the man who broke in here just raised his hand lightly and created a 100-meter long hand that held up the sky and held the third person. 3 rows of small bungalows were reduced to ruins. Smoke and dust billowed. They all stared at all this with wide eyes and astonishment. Died young. Do you want this? Did you load some humming fantasy template? How can you cover the sky with just one hand? This is not consistent with the supernatural view at all. Besides being ridiculous, it's just unbelievable. They would rather suspect that they are under an illusion than admit that ghosts have such power. What level of terror is this? Top Ghost King? Spirits? Or above ghosts and gods? Think of this. Everyone was silent. The atmosphere at the scene fell into a deadly silence. However, one person is unaffected. That is Shen Jian. A trace of disgust flashed in his eyes. Because he discovered that these bloody corpses were said to be ghosts, but in fact they were somewhere between supernatural creatures and ghost slaves. And the body used is not one's own. Instead, a strange ghost was stuffed into a mindless blood corpse, turning it into a watchdog that only knew how to obey orders and had abyss-level supernatural powers. This method made Shen Jian think of the soul-trapping technology of the supernatural game app. Not only are such vicious ghosts not suitable to be underworld agents, they will be excluded by the rules of the underworld, and they are not moneyless ghosts. If they are caught, they will be of no use except being thrown into the 18th level of hell to be tortured. Because of this, Shen Jian was very disappointed. Starting room. His strength also increased a bit. The surrounding buildings began to rapidly decompose and take shape, forming giant hands made of rocks. Haha, don't be afraid, just treat it as a sap, it'll be fine. Shen Jian said with a smile. The words fell. Several nearby small bungalows also suffered fatal blows. Make an overwhelmed sound. Boom. With the roar, the steel and concrete were torn apart, the load-bearing columns were crushed, and the beams were compressed. Ah! Save the ghost. Gan, we are just watching a show, why are you killing us? You can do whatever you want. You, man, spare your life. Amidst the shrill screams, the surrounding bungalows were accompanied by the wails of bloody corpses, and little by little, they were completely crushed into meat pies and fell into a state of death. With this level of damage, he would not be able to wake up even for 300 to 500 years. Do it all. Shen Jian took back his hand. His eyes fell on the first 4 bloody corpses. Just did a preliminary test. The derivative ability of King Taishan is really easy to use. It is much stronger than the mountain god's magical power of moving mountains. It is worthy of the magical power that only the King of Hell can master. The mountain god's magical power of moving mountains is to integrate itself into the mountains and fight with the help of the power of the mountains. The size of the mountains affects the ability of the mountain gods, and the magical power of moving mountains is to directly lose the mountain and cannot perform more subtle operations. The derived abilities of King Tarzan are different. On the premise of moving mountains, it also adds diversified control capabilities. The scope of control does not need to be limited to a mountain range, but can control any land line. He can make any element related to Earth change with his thoughts. The Earth is like this, and so are the buildings. Thinking. Shen Jian glanced at the 4 blood corpses and Zhou Fan and his group. Thump. The 4 bloody corpses knelt down on the spot. The whole person was frightened. You must know that they are all abyss-level blood corpses. Even if they cannot match the real abyss-level Ghost King in terms of hard power, if the two join forces, the abyss-level Ghost King will be completely suppressed by them. But now, what did they see? Someone crushed to death a dozen abyss-level blood corpses guarding the door with just one hand. They watched the whole process. It could be said that the blood corpses had no resistance at all. The other party's expression was as simple as crushing an ant casually. Who can stop such a terrifying existence? Although their minds are not bright, they are not fools. Wrong. Even a fool will be frightened after seeing such a spectacular scene, and will subconsciously stay away from the source of danger. Not to mention them. A man has gold at his knees, and he can do it against his will if he has no choice but to do so. Kneel down and they won't suffer. At the same time, Zhou Fan also saw the source of all this. His eyes widened. There was extreme astonishment on his face. The person who unleashed such a powerful method was actually not the protagonist, but the Yama King player who single-handedly destroyed the supernatural game app. Is this real? Although he knew that Shen Jian was very powerful, he had demonstrated the ability to escape safely from a place where a group of ghost kings gathered when he was in Nanjing district, and he had completed plot tasks alone in Baikan district. However, regarding Shen Jian's strength, he and most of them had no idea. Players are the same, but they only scratch the surface. It is believed that Shen Jian most likely has the supernatural strength to compete with the Abyss-level Ghost King, but it is still inferior to the top Ghost King. Although this kind of strength puzzled him, fortunately it was still within the tolerance range. But is it possible for players to imagine this method of raising their hands to cover the sky and turning their hands around? He has some doubts about life. They are both players, and they are also ghost masters, but they just lack one ghost to control. The difference is bigger than the difference between a human and a dog. He couldn't imagine it. The expression management of the others is not much better than Zhou Fan. The school beauty ghost and her two best friends also looked at Shen Jian with palpitating expressions. Just now, they almost thought that Shen Jian was planning to crush them to death together with the bloody corpse. The fear at that moment cannot be described in words. They knew that this was a man on a level that they could not imagine. If he wanted to, he could easily obliterate them at any time. There is such a terrifying existence in Wutong City? While the school beauty ghost was observing, Shen Jian also set his sights on the other party. Even though her face was stained by dust and her skirt was dirty, it still couldn't hide her beautiful face lightly painted with pink and pink. Her delicate appearance was worthy of being recognized as the school belle of Scarlet University. According to the kinship relationship, this girl should be considered his daughter-in-law. Thinking of this, Shen Jian couldn't help but look a little weird. He and the school belle looked about the same age, but they grew up a generation out of thin air. Not only did he gain a cheap son, but he also gained a daughter-in-law. This is my first experience. He doesn't know when his cheap stepson will come back. If he knows that his mother has a lover of the same age, or a husband, he doesn't know how the protagonist will feel then. Do you accept it in shock, or are you unable to accept this reality? If it were discovered that he was an unknown person from the Temple of Heaven, task. Shen Jian clicked his tongue, suddenly wanting to see the scene. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 648. Looking at his nominal daughter-in-law, Shen Jian's eyes flickered. Some strange thoughts came to mind. This kind of super senior experience has to be said to be quite amazing. I just don't know if the protagonist won't be able to accept it then. Thinking. The school beauty ghost and his group also reacted. Looking at the rows of buildings turned into ruins, they hurriedly thanked them. Thank you, sir. There was a hint of fear in their voices. Because they didn't know whether this mysterious man was here to save them. On the contrary, the attack just now almost crushed them into pieces. It doesn't sound like there's any malicious intent. You could say he had malicious intentions, but he saved them again. So much so that they knew that Shen Jian was their savior, but they still couldn't help but feel a little scared in their hearts. Just standing in front of this man, they felt like they were being targeted by a large predator. Shen Jian waved his hand, daughter-in-law, cough, It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. I'm just a kind-hearted person passing by. What I like most is to save lives and heal the wounded. These bloody corpses have been saved by me and have gone to the bliss of the West. They have also gained soul comfort and spiritual rest. When I think of this, I feel like I have done another good deed. When he thought that this was Yin Cao's headquarters, and that the commotion he had just made, Yin Cao might have been discussing how to deal with him. Shen Jian felt excited every time he thought about it. Zhou Fan. School bell ghost. Blood corpse. Hearing this, I don't want Billion's remarks. The corners of their mouths twitched slightly. God is so comforted. You have crushed this into flesh. If you can still feel the comfort in your soul, then you have seen a ghost. Not to mention spiritual rest, they even felt that if those crushed bloody corpses could still retain a little bit of supernatural power, they would stare at Shen Jian with eyes wide open. Certainly. They only dared to arrange these words in their hearts. On the surface, the four blood corpses all showed good attitudes. Not only was he kneeling, he was licking his face and laughing. It seems to be saying, "Oh, yes, yes, everything you said is right. We don't dare to refute it anyway, so just let it be what you say." See this. Shen Jian was very satisfied. Asked, "Are you all members of the Yin Cao?" The four blood corpses nodded quickly and said in unison, "Yes, sir, we are the guards responsible for guarding the gate of hell, we are just some unknown people who are controlled." Shen Jian. He looked startled. Very meow. Is this underworld really a complete replica of the underworld? Even the gates of hell have appeared. You really dare to name it? Do you know where the headquarters is? Hear this. The four bloody corpses looked at each other in confusion. Moment. They were the ones who said weakly, "Sir, we don't know that we are alien ghosts created by the judges. We are born without bodies and can only be placed in the world of consciousness. Even if we are parasitic in a blood corpse, we cannot violate the laws of the consciousness. Control can only stay here for life and cannot leave this range." Of course, we can't leave here, but we can probably guess the specific location of Yin Cao's headquarters. After passing Gaiman Pass, then passing Huanquan Road, and walking across Nahe Bridge, we will arrive at Wushuan City. Yin Cao's headquarters is located in Wushui City. Those the judge lives over there. Seeing that Shen Jian's expression became dangerous, Shuiji quickly explained. After listening, Shen Jian's desire to complain became even stronger. He probably saw it. The entire rebirth garden was shrouded in a super-large ghost realm. And this ghost realm is the underworld. Gaiman Pass is the entrance, Huanquan Road and Nahe Bridge are the natural dangers that block the enemy, and the final city of Fuzi is where the headquarters of Yin Cao is located. The judges live here and are responsible for all things in the underworld. There is also a Yinko Palace Master who leads all of this. Although in terms of overall scale, this is just a castrated version of the organization that imitates the underworld, it can be said to be well organized and flourishing. If he hadn't met the protagonist, Wutong City would have been ruled by Yin Cao. After all, in terms of background alone, Yin Cao's power has occupied nearly 2/3 of the Ghost King level and Abyss level ghosts in Wutong City. Except for the fact that there are no ghosts and gods sitting around, it can be regarded as the top 5-star supernatural place. Violently, Shen Jian thought about the origin of the supernatural game app again. Such supernatural intensity cannot be justified by ghosts and gods. The master of the Yin Cao Palace has most likely been promoted to the level of ghost and god. In other words, today's Yinko is already a high-standard 5-star supernatural place. Compared to the imperial capital of Yanjai Kingdom, it is so much better. The world-weary ghosts and gods can set up such a copy, and the horror of its background is evident. The 5-star Supernatural Land is already a legendary dungeon in the evaluation of horror games. There are no more than 7 dungeons opened in the East and the West. However, the world-weary ghosts and gods who have actually mastered the authority of the third-place Luo Fengtian, their entertainment city has surpassed the boundaries of the 5-star Supernatural Land and reached the specifications of a 6-star, no, it should be said to be a 7-star copy. This is a power that not even horror games can control. Just by looking at the copy of the world-weary ghost and god that can bring players into the entertainment city without participating in the horror game, you can understand the horror of a world-destroying ghost and god who controls Luo Fengtian's authority. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes flickered slightly. 7-star copy. Compared with the horror world, the upper limit of Luo Feng's 6 days in the deep ghost realm, backed by the underworld, is indeed too large. The power possessed by a world-destroying ghost and god alone is deeper than the foundation of a terrifying world. No wonder the horror game banishes all beings above ghosts and gods to the deep ghost realm. If this were not the case, the horror world would have long been reduced to the territory of a few world-destroying ghosts and gods. Not to mention development, as long as it is not restricted, it is already considered good. Thoughts are spinning. Shen Jian suppressed these thoughts for the time being. The most important thing right now is to fully take over Yin Cao. Only by taking control of Yin Cao first can he rely on Yin Cao's power to search for clues about world-weary ghosts and gods. Only then can Luo Fengtian's authority in the third place be recovered. Shen Jian's eyes shimmered. There was a flash of smile on his face. Haha, it's a novel experience to walk the Huangquan Road and Nehi Bridge again. Taking 4 blood corpses with him, Shen Jian planned to go deeper. Today's underworld facilities are basically complete, but if there is a better choice for this underworld, he is not irreplaceable. After all, except for Yamahal and Huangquan Road, the rest of the underworld facilities are basically newly built. In terms of intensity, it cannot compare to the original underworld. Shen Jian has always known this. There is still a long way to go before today's underworld can truly rival the underworld in ancient myths and legends. Wait, Brother Shen, please take me. At this time, Zhou Fan spoke. He looked like he wanted to rush forward and hug his thigh, but was too thin-skinned to dare to step forward. Then, he could only shout with a shy face. Ever since he knew this was the Yin Cao headquarters, he had completely lost the idea of leaving alone. Now, the appearance of Shen Jian made him see the light of leaving here. If you don't speak up at this time, you are really seeking death. Whatever you want. Shen Jian waved his hand. Turn away. See this. Zhou Fan was overjoyed. He followed up with all his might. From the words of the blood corpses just now, he could tell that as long as he entered here, it was equivalent to stepping into the gate of hell and entering the realm of Yin Cao. In this case, how could the people of Yin Cao organization allow others to leave and expose them? Position. I am afraid that as soon as I walked out of the villa area, several abyss-level ghost kings appeared in front of me and blocked the way, killing them on the spot. In this case, following Shen Jian is the best choice, even if this choice seems more dangerous. But at least, it's not a fatal situation. The other side. Seeing Shen Jian, the bloody corpse, and Zhou Fan leaving, the school beauty ghost and the 2 best friends also looked embarrassed. How could they not see that Zhou Fan seemed to know that mysterious man? In such a dangerous place, it is undoubtedly a happy thing to have a strong backup. But the other party didn't intend to go out. Instead, he thought about going to someone else's base camp, which was really too dangerous. That is the headquarters of the evil organization Yinko, known as the Disaster of Wutong City. Just one gate is guarded by more than a dozen abyss-level blood corpses. It is hard to imagine what unknown horrors there are here. They are just a group of college students. When have they ever seen such a battle? They were not frightened to the point of peeing, which means they have good psychological quality. Sister Chu, what should we do? Should we go out or follow them? Sister Chu, your so-called fiancé seems unreliable, and it seems useless if he comes. After all, no matter how powerful he is, he can't go against Yin Cao. Two best friends asked. The school belle gritted her teeth. Seeing that Shen Jian was already drifting away, leaving only a blurry figure behind, he still followed him. You are right, going out at this time is equivalent to becoming a living target. Even if Lin Yan comes, he will only be a prostitute. It would be better to follow that mysterious man than to be caught. I always felt that there was something wrong with the way he looked at me, as if he knew me. Say it. After the three of them wrote a mark at the door, they followed closely. Followed Shen Jian. Instead of relying on a jade pendant that they don't know if they can call for help and waiting for rescue on the spot, they prefer to control their own destiny. This way, even if something happens, they won't regret it. And there is also that mysterious and strange man here. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 649. On the road. Zhou Fan followed Shen Jian while replying frantically on the chat interface. Lian Cheng, damn it, you can never imagine who I met and what I saw. Sister Lan, if you were the protagonist, you would never be so excited. I guess you are meeting a player and the boss of Yama. Mr. Chi, haha, I have a guess you should have seen the scene where the master casually crushed the devil to death, and now he is thinking about how to lick elegantly without being regarded as a dog licker. Zhou Fan. See here. His face suddenly stiffened. People are hard to break down. Besides, you must be the roundworms in my stomach, you actually know this. If you do this, I feel so unfulfilled. Lian Cheng, I almost forgot that you all know Brother Shen. This is boring. Mr. Chi, oh, I remember that not long ago, you had the attitude of the difficulty of the dungeon has increased because of the masters. Now you are calling Brother Shen, the efficiency is good. Lian Cheng. Lian Cheng, I'll give you 200 thriller coins to withdraw this sentence. Player Mr. Chi withdrew a message. Zhou Fan coughed dryly, glanced at Shen Jian in front of him, and subconsciously breathed a sigh of relief. He did complain about Shen Jian back then. Because if he were not a level 58 player, how could they possibly match the unprecedented 5-star movie copy? But as Shen Jian showed his presence one after another, his thoughts faded away. It wasn't until Shen Jian saved him once that this thought completely dissipated. If it weren't for Shen Jian, he would have died just now. Maybe the school beauty can survive, but he, a human disguised as a ghost, is definitely one of the rare delicacies in the ghost's diet. It is only a matter of time before his body is torn into pieces and eaten alive. Again. Even without Shen Jian, he would have entered at least a 3-star movie copy. With his strength, there is no guarantee that he can pass the level. At most, it will be easier in the early stage. But in the later stages, they will definitely have to deal with evil ghosts. By then, whether you survive or not depends entirely on luck. But it's different now. In addition to relying on luck, he can also rely on his thighs. With the ability that Shen Jian has shown, even the top Ghost King can match it, and the villain organization Yin Cao in the 5-star movie copy here has only a top Ghost King. In other words, in addition to joining the Tianshan Temple and fighting against the Yin Cao organization, they have a third option, which is to follow Shen Jian. If they really had to choose a side, most people would choose Shen Jian. Nothing else. Humanity itself is a lineup. Instead of getting along with the evil ghosts, they would rather hug each other and follow Shen Jian, who is also a human being. There is no doubt about it. At this time, Sister Lan, where are you now? Did you choose to return or go deep into the enemy's hinterland? Lian Cheng, you really know Brother Shen well. Brother Shen has chosen to go to the base camp of the Yin Cao organization we are following him in, and the protagonist's fiancée is also following. I think this has gone beyond the fixed plot of the dungeon itself, a self-explanation of the modified version of Liao Mo. Mr. Chi, how normal. The precognitive ghost in Nanjing district and the supernatural game app in Baikan district are basically related to the protagonist. If there is no expert, the protagonist should be the one to solve these problems, but even if they are robbed by the expert, there is no butterfly effect. Sister Lan, don't talk so much, the matter in front of you is the most important thing. If Mr. Shen can disintegrate the Yin Cao organization from the source, then we will be completely safe. After that, we only need to wait until the protagonist is promoted to Ghost and God, and we can complete the level perfectly. For this purpose, I prepared a lot of information. Sister Lan at Lian Cheng, write it down, it's very important. Sister Lan, according to the information I checked, Tianshan Temple had 2 attacks on the Yinko organization. Although they did not invade the city of Fuzhe, they also learned a lot of information. Sister Lan, Yin Cao is the name of the organization, but it is also a very large ghost realm. If you want to truly touch the core of Yin Cao, you must go to Wushu City. There is only one road leading to Wushu City. It starts from Gaiman Pass and passes through Huangquan Road. After crossing Nehi Bridge, we finally arrived at Yinko headquarters. Sister Lan, this process will encounter a lot of obstacles, especially the blood corpses guarding in front of the ghost gate. Pay special attention to them. Although these blood corpses are not very intelligent, they have the supernatural strength of the Abyss level Ghost King. The 2 of them working together are enough to suppress a true Abyss level Ghost King, not afraid of life and death, and extremely ferocious. If you want to pass here, I suggest. Lian Cheng, well, these bloody corpses have all been beaten into minced flesh. Brother Shen killed them all in less than 30 seconds, one with each hand. Zhou Fan was sending a chat message while not forgetting to look at the 4 bloody corpses licking their faces in front of him, feeling a little nervous. Fearless of life and death, extremely ferocious, are these really the 4 little ones in front of him? It's too inconsistent. Facing them, these blood corpses struck hard. Facing Shenjian, he became a licking ghost. The style of painting has become different. Lian Cheng, that's not right. There are 4 bloody corpses that survived and turned into ghost traders, letting Brother Shen do whatever he wants. Sister Lan, Gan, he is truly worthy of being a boss. In such a short time, they actually broke through the gate of hell and sent away all the bloody corpses. To know. Judging from the records of the Heavenly Temple alone, these blood corpses are the front line against the enemy. With more than a dozen Abyss-level blood corpses, even if the top Ghost King comes, it is impossible to walk past them. The original Tianshan Temple lost a lot of people in order to pass through here. Did not expect. In Shenjian's eyes, these bloody corpses were so vulnerable. She seemed to be able to imagine the majesty of Shenjian hitting a bloody corpse with one palm. Has hope. Shenjian really has hope that he can put an end to the Yin Cao organization and solve the final boss in advance. Think of this. Not only Wang Yian's face was full of excitement, but the other players also showed excited expressions. Although things have developed beyond their imagination. But it can be seen from these words that the players with the highest levels in the game collectively believe that the boss with the ID King of Yama is capable of dismantling Yin Cao. To be honest, they can't imagine this. I feel like everything is so dreamy. How could one player's power be compared to the evil organization that occupies half of Wutong City? Even though this big boss has some incredible power, his personal power is too fragile before the battle of the Sea of People. Not to mention, even with personal power, the players cannot achieve the level of crushing. But this does not prevent them from having some hope in their hearts. If they can really dismantle the underworld as Wang Lan said, they can successfully clear the 5-star movie copy and become the first players to clear the level in the history of Entertainment City. By then, they will wear honor. The other side. Shen Jian paid no attention to the conversation between the players. At this time, he had already been led by the blood corpse to a white jade cobblestone path leading deeper into the villa. Is this Huangquan Road? Shen Jian's eyes showed some interest. He had already obtained the authentic Underworld Road to Underworld in the copy of Yanjai Kingdom. He wanted to know what the effect of the Underworld Road in Yin Cao's words was. Think about it for a moment. Shen Jian stepped onto the cobblestone path. No supernatural reactions. Nothing unusual appeared. Think about it. He started walking further down the trail. As it goes deeper and deeper, a change occurred. On the way, the door of a villa suddenly opened, and a young man walked out, his face frighteningly white. Looking in the direction of Shen Jian, he began to shout. Friend, help me, I have a story. The sound spread out and reached Shen Jian's ears. Next moment, he paused in his steps. The idea of turning around and helping this young man actually came up in his heart. And this thought became more and more frequent, like some kind of spreading supernatural virus, gradually occupying his mind, leaving only one thought in his mind, and that was to turn back. Shen Jian pondered for a moment. Ghost calling people and ghost turning back. Maybe some kind of supernatural power needs to be added that takes time to activate. Think of this. Shen Jian's eyes were a little disappointed. From a functional point of view, it does fit the idea of no turning back on Huangquan Road, but it is too simple and crude. If this was considered a road to hell, then he could make hundreds or thousands of them. But thinking that the gate of hell is the gate of the villa community, Shen Jian suddenly felt that this seemed quite normal. After all, this is just a supernatural place that touches the underworld. How can it have supporting facilities that exceed those of the underworld? It was his expectations that were too high. Think of this. Shen Jian sighed. When he looked again, there was only a faint look in his eyes. He stopped and then turned around. With a sinister expression on his face, he said, Great, you have a story and I have a stick. We are a perfect match. Young people? Is this what this sentence says? There was some confusion in his eyes. But seeing Shen Jian turn around and walk towards him, a sinister expression flashed across his face again. This intruder has been tricked. He possesses rare plural supernatural powers. The supernatural power of one ghost can be used as 3 ghosts. The ghost calls for control, the ghost turns around and kills, and the ghost story imposes a curse. Because of this, even if he is only at the abyss level, once his supernatural power is unleashed, the top ghost king must be controlled by him. Are you sure you want to hear my story? The young man chuckled again and asked again. Shen Jian nodded, signaling him to speak quickly. This is a true story. The male and female protagonists in the story are a couple. One day, the husband discovers something strange about his wife. She always gets up in the middle of the night and gestures everywhere with a kitchen knife, which makes the husband feel creepy and suspects that his wife is possessed. However, before he took his wife for treatment, the wife discovered her husband's abnormality, blocked her husband in the room, cut off his head, and started making soup. However, the amazing thing is that the next day, my husband came back and greeted me as if nothing happened, as if he had no idea what happened yesterday. Then, the wife killed her husband over and over again, but the husband appeared over and over again. Until the end, my wife was completely crazy. Hey, do you know why? When he said this, the young man raised his head and looked at Shen Jian. It was as if he wanted to hear Shen Jian tell the answer himself. However, Shen Jian just shook his head. I just want to know where this wife is now. It's not easy for her to be a woman. I really want to help her husband relieve her loneliness. In this way, she may be able to give up this idea. Continue to reconcile as before, and after giving birth to the child, as long as he gives up the idea of going for a paternity test, this will be a harmonious and happy family. And I will also have countless merits. Young people. God really relieves loneliness. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigwa. Chapter 650. Do you think my doing this is a great merit and has directly saved the happiness of a family? Shen Jian smiled very sinisterly. He took out a black steel rod and stared directly at the young man in front of him. Story Ghost. He was stunned. He never expected that he would hear such an answer. Damn it! Do you know what you're talking about? Good guy, you help other people's wives to relieve their loneliness, and you also ask other people's husbands to help you raise wild children. Such a bad behavior turns into a good deed in your mouth. Can you achieve perfect merit? Gan. I don't know if you can save other people's families like this, but once you are discovered and an honest person gets angry, it will definitely kill 3 people. You are a bitch, you are nothing. Story Ghost looked at Shen Jian as if he had seen a ghost. Among the 3 supernatural powers he carries, ghosts turning back means death, ghost stories are curses, and ghosts calling people means control. This control is not limited to the limbs, but also the mouth. Under his supernatural influence, the other party cannot lie. In other words, this man with a steel rod in his hand is really a social scum who destroys other people's families. Have you eaten your rice? Do you need to persecute others like this? If you do this, you will have no choice but to go to hell and experience all the punishments on the 18 levels of hell before you can be reincarnated in the animal realm and work as a cow and horse for this family. You are really weak. Story Ghost pointed at Shen Jian, his eyes full of gloom. Because he is an honest man, and he also happens to have a beautiful wife. He cannot imagine that if his wife is abused by other men, and gives birth to a child without telling him, and lies to him that it is his, then he will. What was the reaction? This moment. He broke his guard. His tone also became unfriendly, and he said in a ghostly manner, "Haha, you want to find her? Isn't she already behind you?" The words fell. After Shen exorcised, a crazy woman wearing red clothes, her face covered in blood, and holding a bloody kitchen knife stood there, as if she had been there from the beginning. At this time, the heroine in the story looked at Shen Jian with a sinister smile. The kitchen knife in his hand has been raised. See this. Story Ghost was looking forward to it, looking forward to seeing Shen Jian's frightened expression. A strange story that only exists in stories suddenly appears, and a madman. Even if it is a ghost, it is impossible for him to have no fear threshold at all. Ghosts scare people, but ghosts can also scare ghosts. And because they are both powerful ghosts, they know better than anyone else how to use them to make ghosts lose their hearts to the greatest extent. However, instead of seeing the horrified expression, Shen Jian discovered that the heroine was actually a moneyless ghost. Right. Ghosts that only exist in stories and don't even have the ability to be known by people mean they don't have any luck. What surprised Shen Jian even more was that the story ghost could summon this type of moneyless ghost out of thin air. This is not a ghost, this is clearly a treasure trove for him to unlock the 3 evil paths, the last of the 6 paths of reincarnation. Shen Jian has not forgotten that the condition for unlocking the hungry ghost path is 50 moneyless ghosts, and he has been here for at least 2 weeks to get a copy of the movie. Only a quarter of it was collected. And most of them were collected by relying on the magic of parchment. At this point, parchment has irreplaceable value. And the story ghost in front of me is equally astonishingly valuable. The more I think about it, Shen Jian's eyes became more intense. The moment the woman raised the kitchen knife, he turned around and broke her wrist. The surprise in his eyes only increased instead of decreasing. Woman. Grass. You are so excited to see a ghost that goes crazy and kills people randomly. Couldn't what you just said be true? Think of this. The woman's face also darkened. Although she killed her husband, she still loved her husband. Her body will not be allowed to be touched by other men. Then she raised her foot and teased her vaginal leg. I want to confiscate this bastard's crime tools so that he can no longer harm other families. Haha, brother, this woman is quite fierce. I like this kind of strong woman, she is fierce. Shen Jian smiled and said. When we meet for the first time, I have nothing to express. I will just give you a heart so that you can see my sincerity. Said. Shen Jian grabbed his heart with his 5 fingers. Take it out. A lively beating heart was just exposed to the air. Shen Jian held his heart and looked at the woman with a tender expression, as if he was expressing his feelings, proving that what he said was true. Story Ghost. He was confused. He lowered his head with a stiff expression. He looked at a big hole in his heart, and then looked at Shen Jian in shock. It's your uncle's fault. You have nothing to express, so don't express it. Besides, if you humming insist on showing off, why are you ripping out my heart? You pay for it yourself. No matter what happens, why don't you take out that woman? Use my heart as a greeting gift. You know how to use local materials. What? Isn't your sincerity enough? If not, tell me. I still have liver, lungs, kidneys, and various small intestines here. I don't believe I can't satisfy you. Said. Shen Jian's eyes turned to the story ghost again. His eyes have scanned all kinds of organs. A pair of kidneys, the black market price is 150,000. A heart has a black market price of 200,000. There are also parts such as the liver, lungs, duodenum, small intestine, etc. From his professional perspective as a famous doctor, it shouldn't be a problem to scrape together 1 million thriller coins. Story Ghost. Facing Shen Jian's eyes that automatically marked the value of his organs, he panicked. Subconsciously he took several steps back. I felt vaguely that all the organs in my body were in danger. It's so shameless for this dog to send you something. Be generous to others. Let him suffer. Then. He couldn't bear it anymore. Revealing his death state, a terrifying grimace looked at Shen Jian ferociously, his head began to turn 180 degrees, and at the same time he did not forget to shout, "Do it, entangle him, 2 against 1. The advantage is ours." The woman pounced forward, intending to bite off Shen Jian's neck. At the same time, buy time for the story ghost to activate the murderous supernatural power of the ghost's return. Then, the next second, Shen Jian gave an ordinary slap, and the story ghost's head had already turned 90 degrees. Under the fierce blessing of Pei Ran's huge force, it rotated an unknown number of times to 180 degrees. At last, the whole head fell off. At the same time, the black steel rod in his hand pushed out. Old sister-in-law, you are overestimating my sincerity. It seems that I can't help your husband relieve your loneliness. The words fell. Shen Jian knocked the woman away directly. It really breaks your lungs. This. Just what happened in 3 seconds. In a confrontation, 2 abyss-level ghost kings who were close to the top ghost kings were defeated in such an overwhelming manner. The process was almost like a college student going to kindergarten. They punched Nanshan nursing home and kicked Beihai kindergarten. These 2 sentences can perfectly describe everything that happened in front of me. What stands out is the ease. See this scene. Even after accepting the fact that Shen Jian was very strong and could crush a large group of blood corpses with one hand, they still felt the trembling from their hearts. In the past, the abyss-level Ghost King, who was majestic in the outside world, was still the leader who was infinitely close to the top Ghost King. Such a existence in Wutong City would undoubtedly be the target of many people's fawning. But here, in front of this man, they were as weak as children. Certainly. If you become arrogant because of this and think that you can defeat the Abyss-level Ghost King, you will definitely end up in a miserable situation. The reason why the scene is like a father beating his son is simply that Shen Jian is too strong, so strong that even without using supernatural powers, he can still easily crush the Abyss level. They couldn't imagine such strength. I'm afraid only the Palace Master of Yinko has such ability. Following Shen Jian, they were right. The school belle and her two best friends looked at Shen Jian showing off his power with sideways glances. Ghosts all have a strong mentality. Worshipping beings with a higher level of terror. The reason why ghosts and gods can become the belief of ghosts is because the level of terror is too unfathomable and the number is so small that they have become legendary existences. They are no exception when it comes to worshipping the stronger. And Shen Jian is not only supernatural and unfathomable, he is also handsome, with sharp eyebrows and starry eyes. It is actually very rare for such an appearance to appear on a male ghost. If you add the label of a top ghost king on the basis of this appearance, it will not be rare, but rare in the world. This is the perfect candidate for all single and married female ghosts in Wutong City. Even the school beauty who is used to seeing excellent men can't help but have some different emotions. It's a bit like, hoping that Shen Jian will see her beauty. If she could be pursued by such a man, she felt that it would be difficult for her to control him. The other side. Zhou Fan, who didn't know what the three ghosts were thinking, was looking at the chat interface and watching Shen Jian put the story ghost's head on his hand and spin it in circles. Sister Lan, damn it, you interrupted me just now, and I forgot to tell you the following information. After passing the gate of hell, you will arrive at Huangquan Road. According to the records of Tianshan Temple, Huangquan Road is even more dangerous if you don't pay attention. The whole army will be wiped out, because this ghost is targeting a lineup with a large number of members. Sister Lan, there is only one ghost on Huangquan Road, but it is a special individual. It has 3 different supernatural powers among them. The ghost who turns around is the most dangerous. Once he is looked back at, he will die. Sister Lan, but this is a single attack. The most difficult thing to deal with is the third kind of supernatural being, which is storytelling. The stories told by ghosts will eventually form a ghost story. The more people there are, the faster the supernatural superposition will appear. The more ghost stories you get, the more ghost stories you will get. So you cannot face the ghost in this level. You must pass through the underworld road before the ghost opens his mouth. Sister Lan, if you have a shielding supernatural being, it will be easy to get over here. If you don't have one, you can only use one person to lure away the ghost this way. Player Lian Cheng uploads a photo. All players were stunned. Some are not tight. Going deep into the enemy's hinterland, why don't you quickly discuss countermeasures based on the intelligence content at this time, and instead take photos leisurely? You really think this is a sightseeing trip? You still take photos for nostalgia, right? Do you still want to carve a labels? Wofen travels everywhere to record your wonderful life. Soon. They click on the photo. In the photo, Shen Jian was riding on a headless ghost, shooting his bow left and right. Beat the opponent until he cannot take care of himself. There was a head next to it, with a bruised nose and swollen face. Next to it, a female ghost in red was holding her stomach, as if she had suffered some unbearable pain, and was wailing miserably. Lian Cheng at Sister Lan, Nyo, this is what you call the danger of Huangquan Road. I don't know whether it is dangerous or not, but I know that the rest of their lives will not be much better. A group of players. Wang Lan. Damn it. Too sloppy. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 651. Too sloppy. All the players were stunned. Although they had been psychologically prepared for Shen Jian's intensity, They still felt unreal when they saw Shen Jian beating up two abyss-level ghosts who were infinitely close to the top ghost kings. With such strength, no wonder Wang Lan and others felt that Shen Jian could dismantle the Yin Cao group. They are both humans and players, but they have to admit that the gap between people is still quite big. They can stay furious all day long in a state of extreme rage. But others can single-handedly defeat the final boss of the 5-star movie copy. As human beings, we are sorry. The other side. Shen Jian finally stopped. He shook his muscles and bones extremely comfortably. Compared with flashy lightning techniques, supernatural beliefs, and magical powers, beatings from close range to the flesh can make him feel more happy. Under his words and deeds, Story Ghost also understood the truth that evil cannot defeat justice, decisively rebelled and joined the side of justice. Those who know the current affairs are the best. If you have such awareness, you will be able to do great things in the future. I will also accept the wife you summoned. Shen Jian stuffed the woman in red into the sack with a smile. A moneyless ghost is also a valuable unlocking material. How can it be wasted? Story Ghost. He put his head back on again in grief and indignation. Bullying ghosts is too much. This man insulted him and made him switch to other evil forces. Although they are all professional villain organizations, this experience of being forced to rebel is still too dark. How will this make him raise his head in front of his peers in the future? The more he thought about it, the gloomier his face became. But looking at Shen Jian's sweeping gaze, he shuddered. The resentment in his eyes immediately dissipated, and he no longer had any disrespectful thoughts. Without him, it would be too painful for this man to fight ghosts. To know. Even if the top ghost king attacks him, he will only be injured and his supernatural power will be damaged. The so-called pain should not exist in an abyss-level ghost king like him. However, in front of this man, his supernatural powers are as if they are not there at all. Every punch hits him. Everything on his body would remind him of the frail human body. That kind of pain is several levels worse than the pain in the waist without anesthesia. As for the summoned paper man's wife, he couldn't control that much. Anyway, he didn't let the red woman's husband manifest. If he didn't know, it wouldn't be considered cheating. In life, sometimes you have to be a little confused. Just thinking about it? Shen Jian suddenly said, I heard that your supernatural powers can be superimposed to make more weird stories appear in the story. Call this woman's husband out to me. Story Ghost. He raised his head sharply. The mouth opens wide. Damn it. Forget about playing with other people's wives, now you want other people's husbands to come over too? It's too grassy. Have people outside reached this level of thinking? Isn't this considered immoral? Hurry up. Shen Jian said urgently. He needs to know if the Story Ghost's supernatural power can help him solve the problem of unlocking the Hungry Ghost realm. There was a moment of silence. Although the Story Ghost couldn't bear it, he still had no choice but to choose to help the evildoer. In life, sometimes if you know more, you will be able to endure it. Soon. He brings to the surface the husband of the woman in the story. Shen Jian's originally excited face immediately collapsed. His brows furrowed even more. This is not a moneyless man. Even in ghost stories, do ghost stories also share blessings? Think about it. Shen Jian asked the story ghost to summon strange stories from other stories. This time, there was a smile on Shen Jian's face again. Not considered a failure. In the 10 summons, a total of 3 wealthless ghosts were brought, and the probability was quite high. Following this trend, it is not difficult to gather the conditions for unlocking the Hungry Ghost path. And don't forget, parchment is also a way. With the double blessing, it is only a matter of time before everything comes together. Think of this. Shen Jian glanced at the story ghost who had been squeezed dry, and let him go for the time being. If you collect 3 moneyless ghosts in one day, you will get 30 in 10 days. He is still very tolerant of old hens that can lay eggs. Do you know any secrets about Yin Cao? Shen Jian asked casually as he walked deeper along Huangquan Road. Story Ghost straightened his head, slightly stunned. Xinmai. Does it count that the number of Yinko judges suddenly increased? What's the meaning? Story Ghost explained, I am the only guard on Huangquan Road. Every time a member of the Yin Cao walks out, I will know. I found that in the past year, the number of judges has increased. From the originally fixed 5 judges, the number suddenly increased to more than a dozen, and even the terror levels of other ghost generals have improved to a certain extent, and they are almost catching up with me. Hear this. Shen Jian frowned slightly. The Yin Cao is divided into 4 levels: Ghost Envoys, Ghost Generals, Judges, and Palace Masters. The Netherworld Ghost Envoy is at the Ghost King level, the Ghost General is at the Abyss level, and the Judge is at the Unsolvable level, which is the top level of the Ghost King. According to Story Ghost, the number of top Ghost Kings within the Yin Cao is increasing rapidly. Even the terrifying level of the Ghost General has been raised from the Abyss level to infinitely close to the top Ghost King, and the overall strength level has soared by a stage. This is extremely unreasonable. There is also something wrong with the fact that the Master of Yinko Palace is suspected to have been promoted to a ghost or god. Because according to the normal plot outline, even if the Lord of the Yin Cao Hall is promoted to a ghost, he will only be promoted at the final decisive battle moment when the movie is about to end. Otherwise, the protagonist has no power to resist at all. In other words, is there something helping the Yin Cao organization? World-weary ghosts and gods. The only thing Shen Jian could think of was the world-weary ghosts and gods who arranged this movie farm. And this incident happened a year ago and had nothing to do with him. Think of this. The confusion in Shen Jian's eyes deepened. Isn't the purpose of world-weary ghosts and gods to train the protagonist to advance to the level of ghosts and gods? Why does the plot deviate so much? According to Yinko's current lineup, neither of the 2 celestial temples is a match. It can be said that the protagonist has no chance of winning. With this thought, Shen Jian quickly walked out of Huangquan Road. Came to Nehi Bridge. The so-called Nehi Bridge is an ancient arch bridge. Under the arch bridge is the Black River, which is nearly 100 meters wide. Once it falls, there will be absolutely no good ending. Zhou Fan and the others could even see that a large number of dead bones were buried under the Black River. Saw this scene. Everyone turned pale. This Black River is really terrifying. Just staring at it gave them a feeling of mourning. Under such supernatural influence, they wanted to dig out their own eyes, blind their ears, and bet their mouths with stones. Only in this way can we not be affected by Hai all the time. Just standing 100 meters away had such a great supernatural effect on them. They couldn't imagine how loud this mourning sound would be if they walked onto the arch bridge. I'm afraid if I didn't stand there for a second, I would choose to commit suicide by drowning in the river. The school belle and her 2 best friends shivered. They were just ordinary red-clad ghosts, and they had never seen such a terrifying place. If they were trapped in such a ghost place alone, they might not have the courage to go on, and would choose to end their lives directly and fall into a state of panic to escape reality. Even if the red-level ghost is like this, Zhou Fan, who only controls 2 ghosts, can imagine this. He covered his head and his whole body was shaking violently. One face became even more distorted. There was blood and tears oozing out of his eyes. He opened the chat interface with difficulty. Lian Cheng at Sister Lan, Wang Lan, what's going on with this Nehi Bridge? If you have any information, don't hide it, tell it quickly. Sister Lan, let me make sure first, you haven't crossed the Nehi Bridge yet, have you? Lian Cheng. His face twitched. I can understand Wang Yian's mood very well. It seemed that Shen Jian's previous 2 performances had affected her ability to collect intelligence. Anyone who has worked hard to collect intelligence and plan the best route for her teammates will hope that their teammates will follow the route she gave. However, when Shen Jian walked through the gate of hell, he slapped all the bloody corpses to death. While walking on Huangquan Road, he beat up the guard again. With such a customs clearance method, it can be said that it makes no difference whether there is intelligence or not. This time, Wang Lan was diagnosed with autism on the spot. That's why questions like this are asked. Lian Cheng, I'm sure Brother Shen hasn't walked onto the Nehi Bridge yet. If you have any information, tell it as soon as possible, otherwise you won't be able to use your customs clearance strategy. Sister Lan. Sister Lan, I checked, and there is also only one ghost in Nehi Bridge according to the Temple of Heaven. This is a Meng Jiangnu. A bonfire will be set up in the middle of Nehi Bridge to commemorate her husband who was buried at the bottom of the river, and she will cry during the process. Sister Lan, crying in mourning is not a rare supernatural phenomenon, but the tricky thing is that this Meng Jiangnu is a top ghost king, and when she is crying in mourning, the Black River will also flow with it. If you want to pass here, you can only find out her mourning first laws, otherwise even if the top ghost king comes, he will not be able to pass. See this. Many players were shocked when they heard this. A top-notch ghost king blocking the road, even before reaching Yin Cao's headquarters, such a terrifying ghost appeared. Yin Cao's background must be too scary. Moreover, it is not easy to figure out the pattern of Meng Jiangnu's mourning. This means that someone needs to endure the supernatural attack of a top ghost king until the mourning stops. However, even the top ghost king would not dare to let a being of the same level superimpose supernatural powers to the limit. Lian Cheng, if this is the case, how did the Tianshan temple invade here in the first place? Sister Lan, who said that the Tianshan temple was invaded, the original Tianshan temple was blocked outside the Nehi Bridge because the protagonist did not take action. Sister Lan, in other words, even the Tianshan temple has not fully figured out the true background of Meng Jiangnu, but she can stop so many people from the Tianshan temple. One can imagine how terrifying her supernatural power is. Following Wang Yian's news, all the players couldn't help but feel their breath suffocating. As powerful as the Tianshan temple, it was actually blocked outside the Nehi Bridge, and even the Fusidian Chengdu at the Yin Cao headquarters never entered. This Yin Cao is indeed the ultimate villain, an existence that the current protagonist cannot match. What about Shen Jian? With such a terrifying background, can Shen Jian's power alone be stronger than that of the Celestial Temple? They were confused, puzzled, and a little bit disappointed. Because today, they are either witnessing death or witnessing miracles. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 652. At that time, the atmosphere at the scene seemed to be frozen. All players hold their breath, waiting for the final result. It all depends on Shen Jian whether to continue to survive and struggle in this 5-star movie dungeon, or to disintegrate the villain organization in advance and live a relatively stable dungeon life. To this, even though most players don't think Shen Jian can succeed, they still look forward to a miracle happening. Zhou Fan also looked serious. According to Wang Lan, the Tianshan Temple organization founded by the protagonist had 2 attempts to test the Yin Cao headquarters, but the results were not optimistic. Both attacks were stopped outside Nehi Bridge. I haven't even entered the city of Fuzi, where Yin Cao's headquarters is located. The biggest obstacle is undoubtedly Meng Jiangnu, who comforted her late husband on the Nehi Bridge. Facing a top ghost king, he actually had nothing to do. We can only see how Shen Jian operates. If it doesn't work, they still have a way out and can return to where they were. Thinking. Shen Jian moved. In full view of everyone, we boarded the Nahi bridge directly. Footsteps stepped on it, making a heavy treading sound. This sudden sound immediately attracted Meng Jiangnu's attention. She raised her head, revealing a sad face with disheveled hair and red eyes. Whoa! Meng Jiangnu cried louder. The period of mourning is equivalent to the process of practicing. Once disturbed by others, the soul will not be able to escape. Shen Jian's entry broke this pattern. Just for a moment. Meng Jiangnu cried louder. What flowed out of his eyes was no longer tears, but blood. A large amount of blood flowed down the face from the eye sockets, gathered at the bottom, and finally dripped to the ground. There was a sound of water droplets. Such a scene seems extremely penetrating. Everyone present felt their scalps go numb. Because no one knows whether this is also a pattern of killing. If caught, the supernatural attack launched by a top ghost king would be enough to wipe out anyone except Shen Jian, leaving no room for resistance. This is the cruelty of the supernatural world. They dare not be careless. However, on the contrary, Shen Jian walked onto the Nahi bridge and raised his eyebrows slightly when he heard the extremely unpleasant mourning. Then, he kicked over the incense basin burning with will-o'-the-wisp. He cursed and said, "You're crying. It's so unpleasant. Give me a smile. If you smile happily, I will let you go." Zhou Fan. School bell ghost. Meng Jiangnu. This moment, the whole audience was stunned. Meng Jiangnu, who was trying her best to mourn, suddenly froze up and looked at Shen Jian in disbelief. "No. Are you crazy? What do you want from me? Are you kicking me? Still swearing? What about quality? Your qualities as a ghost have been eaten by dogs. Even the dead people's belongings were smashed. Think of this." Meng Jiangnu's eyes showed a look of overwhelming resentment. She stood up and stared at Shen Jian. The blood and tears in her eyes flowed down faster and faster, soaking her clothes and staining the bridge deck red. Some of the ghost blood fell into the black river under the bridge. He also rioted. It stirred up endless waves. In the face of such natural disasters, both humans and ghosts appear to be very vulnerable. Once submerged, there may be no chance to get up again. At this time, Meng Jiangnu also had a solemn expression on her face. He opened his mouth, faintly planning to cry again. However, the next second, the moment Meng Jiangnu opened her mouth, Shen Jian stuffed a mourning stick into her mouth. The original Wu sound turned into a gurgling sound. Meng Jiangnu, treat me to a stick if you don't agree with me. You are quite wild. I'm afraid my career during my lifetime was not very healthy. Gilu gilu. Meng Jiangnu's eyes widened, and she was about to take out the white bone rod. Shen Jian had already put his hand on her shoulder and said in a teasing tone, "Gg, smile for me, laugh well, I like children who love to laugh best." See you. Meng Jiangnu's pupils widened even more. What was going on with this intruder? Why did she feel so creepy just because he had a hand on her body? It was as if he was being targeted by something terrifying. Even the top ghost king's body couldn't help but tremble at this moment, which gave her the absurd idea of escaping from here. Is it because of this man? How can this be? Her supernatural power is bound to He. Although she is standing on the Nahi bridge, she actually belongs to the Black River. Generally speaking, she is a water ghost, but outsiders call her the river god. Here, she is Meng Jiangnu who is trying to break the Nahi bridge with tears. How could anyone suppress her? This is something that even the Lord of Yinko Palace cannot do. She tried to struggle again. Still unmoved. The small hand seemed to become the hand of God at this moment, making it impossible for her to break away no matter what. Meng Jiangnu was a little panicked. She was about to speak, but was blocked by the mourning stick and couldn't say a word. So she whined. Shen Jian pulled out the morning stick and patted her shoulder, smile. Ahem, huh? Why don't you laugh? I like to hear women's cheerful laughter the most. Shen Jian's eyes gradually became dangerous, and he punched the other person's face with the whale stick in his hand. His faint eyes shone with a faint luster, and the oppression he exuded made Meng Jiang'an tremble. He. Forced to help. Meng Jiangla could only show a smile that was uglier than crying. Family members, who knows? I was mourning in the center of the bridge, and a man with a low head came over, kicked over my incense basin, and threatened me to make me laugh. Who can understand this grievance? Tisk, laughing is worse than crying. You are also talented. Shen Jian hit Meng Jiangnu on the back of the head in disgust and stuffed her into a sack. A top ghost king, even though he is the lord of the underworld, he cannot give up this high-quality resource. By capturing her, there will be an underworld agent who can take charge of patrolling a city. And there are more than a dozen such top ghost kings in Yinko headquarters. I have to say, this harvest is very rich. Another side. Looking at this dramatic scene, no one in the audience spoke. Every pupil is shaking. Finished. This is the end. A top ghost king can be solved in just 3 strikes, 5 divided by 2. Damn it. Really? Your whole process of imprisoning the top ghost king is too childish, just like a humming show. If they hadn't known that no one from the Yin Cao headquarters would act with them, would they really doubt that this was possible? It was so easy that they had the illusion that I could do it too. Is this mysterious and evil man really just the top ghost king? The school beauty ghost fell into panic. Can a top ghost king suppress a ghost of the same level in an instant and then imprison him without any pressure? Just kidding. This is not something that is at least 1 stage higher than the level of terror, and it is impossible to do such a cool thing. Spirits. Is this man who suddenly appeared and saved their lives a ghost and god that only exists in legends? Think of this. Her beauty turned pale. Wuotong City doesn't even have many top ghost kings. When did a ghost-level existence appear? This is too incredible. Just like dreaming. It wasn't until Shen Jian walked across the Nehi Bridge and headed towards the city of Fuzhe that they realized it and hurriedly followed him. I just feel my heart pounding. His eyes kept scanning Shen Jian's back, his eyes filled with excitement, fear, and a hint of inferiority. The legendary ghosts and gods appeared, were observed closely by them, and even saved their lives. If the school beauty ghost and the others said they were not excited, it would be a lie. They were just a group of red-clad fierce ghosts. Even if their parents were above the ghost king level, there was still a huge gap between them and Shen Jian. But they are lucky enough to be able to follow ghosts and gods. In their eyes, this is already a blessing. If you say it out loud, it will cause a stir and arouse jealousy. The 3 of them whispered. Sister Chu, how long has it been and your fiancé hasn't come yet? That so-called jade pendant is not meant to deceive you, right? Sister Chu, why don't you dump Lin Yan and chase Mr. Shen? He is a ghost. If you can catch up, you will be famous in this life. The 2 best friends were blowing pillow wind into the school bell's ears. Encourage the school beauty to pursue Shen Jian. After all, they knew that with their looks, there was no chance of competition. On the contrary, they were school beauties and had an absolute beauty advantage. With a reverse chase, they might be able to seduce ghosts and gods. In this case, as best friends, they might also be able to take advantage of it. Don't talk nonsense, why would ghosts and gods be interested in such things? The school bell looked at the 2 girlfriends who were talking indiscriminately. Then he carefully looked at Shen Jian who was walking in front, with an indescribable complex feeling in his eyes. At the same time, she was also wondering, why didn't Lin Yan come? Logically speaking, the jade pendant cannot be fake. Because she had already used it once. That time, She crushed the jade pendant, and within 30 seconds, Lin Yan came to her side. But this time it has been more than an hour, and there is still no sign of Lin Yan. Nothing will happen, right? The school beauty ghost is a little worried. The other side. Suddenly, Shen Jian also stopped suddenly. Looking far ahead at the Yin Cao headquarters, the city was in vain. There was a flash of surprise in his eyes. Because he sensed that there were a large number of supernatural fluctuations colliding together in the city of death in front of him. One of them turned out to be the protagonist Lin Yan. The reason why the protagonist of Dare Love can't make it over is because he is trapped in the underworld's base camp. Think of this. Shen Jian strode away. This is his great eldest son, a key figure related to the collapse of the dungeon, so he can't do it anymore. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yu Buletin Chi Gua. Chapter 653. The city died in vain. When Shen Jian came here, what he saw was a piece of ruins. Rather than saying it is a city, it is better to say that it is an enclosed gathering place, surrounded by 10 buildings. The so-called city of wasted death is just a way to put money on the face. Just like the gate at the gate of Biwen is called Gaiman Pass, the cobblestone path is called Huanquan Road, and the arch bridge crossing the water is called Nehi Bridge. Among them, Nehi Bridge is a bit mysterious. The rest is just a forced visit to the underworld. The same is true for the city of wasted death. Based on the location, Shen Jian stepped into the real headquarters of this underworld. So does the rest of the people. Panting. I don't know what Shen Jian is worried about, but he insists on running. Are you afraid of waiting for the members of Huiyin Cao to get off work? They suppressed their inner desire to complain and focused their attention on this place. Just at the first glance, their entire faces became frightened. Not because he met another top ghost king, but because he met the ghost king. However, a numeral must be added before this noun. A lot. In an instant. As Shen Jian and others broke in, fierce ghosts walked out of the villa. Compared with the ghosts outside, these ghost kings who walked out looked particularly ferocious, and their bodies were entangled with extremely evil thoughts. From these ghost kings, it seems that they have experienced endless pain, and the sounds of wailing and calling for life are constantly coming from the supernatural aura. Immediately afterwards, another group of evil spirits came out. Different from the first batch of fierce ghosts, the terror level of this batch of ghosts has all reached the abyss level. They are wearing black underworld clothes, and their bodies are constantly exuding wisps of black energy, which are evil thoughts. This is a group of existences that have completely turned into evil spirits. In their eyes, they have no kindred, no companions, and no friends. Their code of conduct is just one: anyone who is not of my own race can be killed. And this species only refers to themselves. In other words, what the evil spirits want to destroy is everyone. Even if they are both members of the Yin Cao, it is the same. Shen Jian became more and more curious. Being able to make all these evil ghosts obey the instructions, the possibility that the master of the Yinko Palace is a ghost is close to 100%. The reason why he didn't dare to say 100% was because he felt strange about the world-weary ghost and God's choice. Obviously, the main purpose of setting up this movie copy is to allow the protagonist to advance to the level of ghost and God, but now, the plot is in chaos. The master of Yin Cao Hall has been promoted to ghost and God. The foundation of Yin Cao organization has increased several times out of thin air. The two heavenly temples are no match for Yin Cao. Even if the protagonist Lin Yan is now promoted to ghost and God, the power of Yin Cao is still not equal to that of Yin Cao. Could something else have happened? Shen Jian was thoughtful. He became more and more eager to see the ghost and God whose name was left on his game board. Thinking. A group of people following behind saw this scene. My scalp almost exploded. I just feel like my brain has gone blank. Ghost King. Densely packed Ghost King level ghosts. There is no need to count them in detail. Just a cursory glance shows that there are more than 300 Ghost King level ghosts here, and there are more than 70 Abyss level Ghost Kings. This amount is so abnormal. It has exceeded everyone's imagination. Even if the Ghost Kings in the entire Wutong City are counted, there may not be as many as 300. Where did an organization that didn't even occupy Wutong City get the resources to cultivate 300 Ghost Kings at once? The same is true for the number of Abyss-level Ghost Kings. It completely exceeds the limit that Wutong City can have. This is no longer a personal issue, but a safety issue for all people in Wutong City. Once Yin Cao with such strength starts a dispute in Wutong City, no one can stop the lineup of 300 Ghost Kings and 70 Abyss-level Ghost Kings. Wutong City will be reduced to a wasteland. Think of this. The faces of the three school beauties turned extremely ugly. I was even more upset inside. They were just a group of college students. How could they encounter a disaster that could destroy Wutong City? Are they asking them to save the world? Can. They have nothing now, so they need to use their heads to save them. But the mysterious man who is suspected of being a ghost has a subtle possibility. Yes. Their minds have changed. I no longer think that Shen Jian can end Yin Cao. For this number of ghosts, quantitative changes have already produced qualitative changes. Even though this is a group of powerful ghosts that cannot even reach the top Ghost Kings, under the huge numerical advantage, the ghosts and gods have to temporarily avoid the edge. If you insist on having your own way, even ghosts and gods may be bitten to death by ants. They are finished. Looking at this army of ghosts that could cover the entire Wutong City, everyone's legs and feet felt weak, and their hearts were even more frightened. They subconsciously wanted to escape from here, but the solace of their feet seemed to be rooted here, unable to move at all. One can only watch in horror as these evil ghosts increase in number and focus on them. We meet again, you fake undercover. At this time, as a large number of evil ghosts walked out, a fat man with Mediterranean hair also walked out. He is the bald dean of Scarlet University and one of the judges of the underworld. He looked at Shenjian, his expression gradually darkened. Because of Shenjian's long live Yin Cao, he mistakenly believed that he was a senior official of Yin Cao and handed over the source code of the supernatural game app. As a result, after returning to Yin Cao, he became a laughingstock and suffered unspeakable punishment. If the palace master hadn't recognized him for his hard work and being a top Ghost King, he would have fallen into a permanent slumber. Now that he saw Shenjian again, one can imagine the resentment in his heart. Haha, you followed me here. The reason you didn't take action against me was because you planned to use me to track the location of the headquarters. Unfortunately, when you plotted against me, I was plotting against you. The bald dean showed a look that was selective and devouring, and said pitifully. The moment you choose to enter here, Yin Cao has already understood your actions. Even if you are hidden deep enough, no matter how strong you are only at the level of a ghost. If all our Yin Cao personnel are dispatched, even if you have 3 heads and 6 arms, you can only die. It's here. In fact, if we hadn't invaded another more important character here, which needs to be dealt with by the other judges, you wouldn't be able to cross even the Nahi Bridge, let alone the city of Fuzi. Hear this. Shenjian looked as usual. He looked into the depths of the city of death. The bald dean also noticed Shenjian's gaze, and the grin on his face became more obvious. I almost forgot. You are suspected of being a ghost, and your perception is more amazing than we imagined. But even if you find out, it is useless. Except for me, the 18 judges of the underworld are all over there, the master of the celestial temple. Being able to hold on for nearly half an hour is already the limit. Even if you go, you can't change the outcome, let alone you can't make it through. Hear this. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. The power of the 18 judges, that is, the 18 top ghost kings, is indeed terrifying when placed in a 5-star movie copy. It has far exceeded the standard. Really, plus the ghost level lord of the Yin Cao Palace. This is no longer the difficulty level of a 5-star copy, but a 6-star one. It is a 6-star dungeon difficulty that horror game players have never heard of. However, the protagonist can actually hold on for half an hour in the hands of 17 top ghost kings. This strength is also beyond the standard. Shen Jian guesses that the protagonist also has high-standard supernatural objects in his hands. Ordinary ghost-level supernatural objects will not work. It must be a supernatural object close to the world-destroying ghost god level, in order for the protagonist to burst out with such power and briefly compete with the 17 top ghost kings. However, this creates another problem. The protagonist has such a powerful supernatural object in his hand. There is no doubt that this must be a gift from the world-weary ghosts and gods. But in a normal movie plot, why would the world-weary ghosts and gods give such a level of supernatural objects to the protagonist? After all, a supernatural object that can compete with 17 top ghost kings at once. If the master of Yin Cao Hall is careless, he may be killed instantly with one blow and fall into a state of death. This trump card is too much. It is incompatible with the normal plot. Moreover, the behavior of world-weary ghosts and gods making bets and improving their foundations also seems to be very timid. That feeling. It's like there are two different world-weary ghosts and gods, betting on the protagonist and the underworld side at the same time, striving for victory. And the results are very obvious. The world-weary ghosts and gods who bet on the underworld organization are even better. Think of this. Shen Jian had some speculations. Period. Zhou Fan obviously heard what the bald dean said. His pupils shrank violently. In another battlefield that they don't know about, there are 17 judges from Yin Cao besieging the Lord of the Heavenly Temple? My day. Isn't that the protagonist? When he was complaining about why the protagonist didn't stop to save people, it turned out that the protagonist had already arrived, but was sent into the enemy's nest and was surrounded by the enemy. This is really, really tragic. Sure enough, only the protagonist will receive such special treatment. If it were an ordinary top ghost king, he would be dismembered into pieces in less than a minute. As for the school beauties, their faces also turned pale. They didn't know that Lin Yan was the master of the Temple of Heaven, but they heard the words 17 judges. In addition to the more than 300 ghost kings and 70 abyss-level ghosts present, there are actually 18 top ghost kings in Yin Cao, as well as an even more unfathomable Yin Cao Palace Master. Such a lineup is no longer something that ghosts and gods can deal with. Or, even ghosts and gods must die when they come. Can't even run away. In addition to being frightened. The bald dean seemed to have sensed something, and then he cast his gaze on Shen Jian and said with a sinister smile, "The outcome is already clear. The master of the heavenly temple has lost. The supernatural power in his body is about to be exhausted. Next, it's time to know you. Speaking of which," he licked his lips, eyes filled with greed. "I have the body of a ghost and a god. I don't know what benefits I can get from eating you." The words fell. All the evil ghosts started moving again. Pairs of indescribably vicious eyes fell on Shen Jian and his party. Just for a moment. Zhou Fan's face turned pale. The heart beats violently. It was as if something indescribable was clutching my heart, and with just a slight squeeze, my heart would violently die. The same is true for the rest of the population. The school bells and ghosts were trembling all over. The 4 bloody corpses were already hugging each other, wanting to cry but without tears. We are just forced. Why should we be included in the enemy's queue? The story ghost also twitched the corners of his mouth. He had been guarding Huanquan Road for so long, and he didn't even know that the city of Fuzi had such amazing heritage. If he had known this, he might as well have been beaten to death. Save yourself from being beaten violently first and now having to face the bites of hundreds of ghosts. Tired, destroy it? With such a lineup, let alone resistance, it was a question of whether he could die happily. He no longer had any hope. But before death, he wanted to see Shen Jian's frightened expression. In this way, even if he gets sick, he will feel better psychologically. Think of this. Story Ghost's eyes suddenly fell on Shen Jian. Then, he was slightly startled. Because he didn't see expressions of fear, despair, and other painful and struggling expressions on Shen Jian's face. Instead, he saw Shen Jian's mouth curled up, revealing a similar sinister smile. He saw excitement on Shen Jian's face. Just when the story ghost was confused, Shen Jian moved. It's time to deal with you as soon as possible. Don't let anything happen to my dear son. Shen Jian grinned. Next moment. Boom. The earth shook. In the astonishment of everyone in the audience, a 100-meter-long hand rose up from the ground in front of Shen Jian. The ground was like water waves, rippled and shattered inch by inch. More than a dozen ghost kings within the range were knocked flat on the spot by the giant rock hand rising from the ground. However, this is far from the limit. As the black pupils in Shen Jian's eyes were gradually covered by the dark luster, an extremely terrifying aura erupted on Shen Jianyan. The next second. Boom. Along with the sound, the 100-meter giant hand made of rock slammed onto the ground. With a strong pull, the ground was torn apart again. An unimaginably huge rock giant broke out of the ground, with its body upright, covering the sky. Block out the sun. Like the arrival of the ancient demon god. Its size is so huge that it is 1,000 meters long. Standing tall against the sky and the earth, straight into the sky. Zhoufan. Yin Cao Yu Fang. Bald Dean. This moment. The world seemed to have come to a standstill. Both the evil spirit and the bald dean were stunned at this moment. All of them raised their heads and looked blankly at the 1,000-meter giant in front of them. The whole ghost was dumbfounded. I'm crazy. Are you still a ghost? This is too exaggerated. Although ghosts and gods are legendary existences with the suffix god, they are still essentially powerful ghosts, but they are just more powerful and supernatural than normal ghosts. But the body of a 1,000-meter giant is definitely something that ghosts and gods can do. Isn't this a joke? If ghosts and gods were so powerful, how could there be existences that could rival them? How could there be such a thing as there are too many top ghost kings, so ghosts and gods have to avoid the edge? The bald dean's entire face was stiff at this moment. Damn it, damn it! He roared inwardly. From the recollection of the scene at the gate of hell early in the morning, he knew that Shen Jian had the information to summon a giant 100-meter rock hand. Although such power shocked him, it was not enough to scare him away. But now, are you telling me that the 100-meter rock giant hand you summoned before is just the tip of the iceberg of this giant? You think you are playing a collectible card game? The left hand, left leg, and right leg appear one after another. At this moment, the bald dean was extremely horrified. In front of this 1,000-meter rock giant with his head in the sky and his feet on the ground, even though he was the top ghost king, he still felt like an ant. Under the gaze of the giant's dead eyes, he felt an unprecedented sense of oppression. I just feel cold all over my body. It's a hot day, but my hands and feet are cold. Can this world get any better? Are ghosts and gods now so ferocious? Are they going to give us top ghost kings a way to survive? Like this, let alone the 18 top ghost kings, even if there are 18 more ghost kings, they won't have the courage to fight. And the bald dean also thought of a more serious problem. What will happen when a 1,000-meter giant appears on a battlefield full of ghosts? I'm afraid it's not just a casual kick, it's a large-scale attack that affects hundreds of meters. With a sweep of his arm, dozens of Ghost Kings were gone. There were nearly 500 fierce ghosts present, and they already had all the information about Yin Cao. But how many times would this be enough for this 1,000-meter giant? Think of this. The bald dean felt a chill in his heart. He knows. The Yinko headquarters is finished. He's done. Everyone present was finished. When they were plotting against Shenjian, the ghost and god, and leading him step by step to the city of vain death, in preparation to devour the god, others simply turned the table over and stopped playing. Where the hell can I talk about this? Who would have thought that Shenjian would have such great power? Taking 6 useless cards, he directly created an invincible dark mage. Too old.